The Leaving Today podcast, the show about the news, history, and attractions of the Disneyland Resort.
Well, come on, Wendy. Let's go.
But where are we going?
To Neverland.
Neverland.
Hello. Welcome to the Leaving Today podcast, episode number 95. If you can believe it, I can hardly believe it. That means we were 5 away from episode 100. Oh my gosh. All right. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are, however you listen to it. We welcome you here. If this is your first time here, welcome. The water is warm. If you are a returning listener, welcome home. My name is Mark, one of the co-hosts here of this LTP we've got going on. Sitting to the left of me is 13.
Hello.
Sitting across from me is the game changer, the trail master of puppets himself, Hury.
I'm not going to say good evening to you because no, good evening.
Okay, good evening. Well, thank you again so much for joining us tonight. We have a special show. We have a special guest on tonight. We have the author of The Unauthorized History of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion, and also co-founder of the nostalgiapodcast.com and doombuggies.com, Jeff Baham.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been trying to get him on for a while, and he has time to talk to us, so we're doing that. Before that, we have the news. Let's see. Also, let's see some other groundwork or whatever, house cleaning here. Patreon. If you'd like to support us, you can go to leavingtodaypodcast.com, click on our Patreon logo, and we make it pretty easy. $1, $5, $3, whatever. Any amount you want. You can do it once. You can do it like a recurring thing. It just helps keep this LTP thing going. And for that, you get to be on the show and come up with a topic. We also have special content. We will deliver audio to you. Yeah, there's that. And then the holidays are coming up, and we have our Amazon page. So go to leavingtodaypodcast.com again and click on the Amazon logo. It takes you to our page. It looks just like Amazon because it is Amazon. All right, and that all helps. Everyone's a winner, right?
Yeah, you can pick up all the lovely books that we talk about all the time on the podcast.
Including Jeff Baham's book.
Exactly.
Yes, that'd be a great place to get it. Yeah. Okay. So let's go on. Anything else? Oh, you know what? We had a question for the week. And we put it on Instagram. And the question was, what are your traditions while driving to Disneyland? Right? Mm-hmm. We're going to ask Jeff this too. So before we do it on Instagram, what are your traditions?
A couple. So the ones that stick out in my head the most is...
Well, a point of reference, where we are, we're about 6.5 hours span of time. Is that about right?
Yeah, give or take, depending on when you leave and if Jessica's driving.
Okay, if Jessica's driving, it's about 4 hours?
Yeah. Yeah, it could be a good 5.
Okay.
So the ones that stick out in my head that are very odd, I don't remember. I know it's about halfway down. It's at a random gas station that me and Jess always stop at. There's always stray cats. And we always play with the stray cats.
Oh, I thought you meant the actual band, the Stray Cats.
Yeah, no, not the last I checked. No, but there's a gas station that there's stray kitties at that we always.
Then do you then stop at the vet to get rabies shots after that? Or
we just do a couple strokes of the kitties and say hi to them.
Okay.
And I want to take them home, but I can't. That's a little one. Like that's a little thing that ended up randomly happening. We only did it like 3 times, but like 3 trips in a row, the different cats would be there every time. And then after that, on our way, we always point out that we're passing Anderson's. There was split pea soup.
Yeah.
And
We know it.
we do have a stop at the Grapevine that every time we get gas, we get Starbucks. And then, but if I'm going with, a side note though, if I go with my husband, which has been several times, I have to go to the Chipotle.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
So I've hit up that. If we usually go at night, so it's hard to say we go stop and do places because like we're going and like usually like we leave around midnight, so that or 2 a.m, so that when we get to Anaheim, we go right when the doors open. That's
Okay.
usually so the time of night that we're leaving, so we can actually get there at opening time or 10 a.m. depending on the time. So saying that we do and stop, like do other things sometimes, it's like hard to say because, it's the middle of the night. And we only do that because we can keep each other company. We're the only 2 people that know we could do, we've done 37 hours awake to do that drive. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. But, go to work all day, drive all night, do park all day the next day, and then crash.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple random things, but, nothing too exciting.
Okay. Udi?
I don't have any now, really.
Well, there's one.
Oh, the pancakes? Well,
Yes.
yeah, there's that. Random Denny's where?
Lost Hills exit.
There you go. I don't have one now, but growing up we did with the fam coming back. Anderson's. My mom had to go like, oh, we're coming back, and we're stopping.
Yeah.
And she would have her soup, and we'd go, that is gross. But yeah, I mean, really now, that's it. I don't have anything. Now we're gonna go LTP high status and go flying all the time now.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah.
The older you get, the harder it is to like do the drive, I feel like.
No, no.
Yes and no?
Yeah, because hours, but then I'm like, I don't want to spend a whole day in the car.
No, that's the thing. That's literally like my body doesn't want to sit there for 6.5 hours.
It's true.
I get too anxious now. I'm like, I want to be there. Like, I want to go. I want to be there. I don't want to
such a
think
nice
about
flight.
like, I know, whoop, up, down, boom.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I think on the way back, we always stop at In-N-Out in Valencia. That's been one of our stops there.
That was one of the ones that when they started branching out, I remember that one, like coming more and more north.
Yeah.
Now they're
All over the
all the way up
place.
here. But yeah, I remember growing up as a kid, like, oh my gosh, there's one up here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we would stop at the Grapevine to either get gas or coffee or or something to eat there. It just varies. We've eaten at Chipotle before, In-N-Out, Denny's. Is Habit over there now or something like that?
There might be.
Yeah, we've stopped there, and then the Andersons thing. I just met my daughter there about a month ago. She's at CSU Monterey Bay, and she drove out there, and I drove there, and I didn't have any pea soup, but that coffee shop was, I think, delightful. I loved it. It was very good. I don't know, comfort food. It's Anyways, all right. So we posted that question on Instagram. And what was said? I don't know what was said. Let's see here.
I've stopped at Harris before too. They have Tesla chargers at the Harris Ranch stop.
Do they?
I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
It was before I saw Tesla charging stations, and I was like, "Whoa, fancy here."
Okay. So let's go back here and see what they said. Disney Universe podcast. Joey said main tradition is to get there ASAP. Good answer. But my mom usually makes travel burritos for the drive down.
Oh.
Usually on the way home, we stop at Anderson's pea soup.
There you go.
Good job. All aboard. I'm guessing that's Corey, right? Okay, yeah. Corey from Phoenix. Coming from Phoenix, I have kind of broken it down into thirds. The Albertsons in Blythe is a great place to stop and stretch the legs and grab snacks and coffee. The other stop is the Pee Wee Herman Dinosaurs in Cabazon, another great place to get lunch at Burger King. Then it's straight in onto the Disneyland area. Good answer. The Punster, that's Ryan. 24-hour drive from Vancouver. 2 days, 12 hours a day straight, only gas and pee breaks. Long haul. Mommy Blue says, coming from the Monterey area, we always stop at the IHOP in Castaic. No reason, but it's been our tradition for the past 13 years. All right. Good answer. Carissa, of course. We drive from Phoenix. We stop at Pilot Quartzsite to fill up with cheap Arizona gas and try not to stop again. Chiriaco Summit is a good place to stop before Indio if we have to stop twice. On the way back, we stop at Round Table in Moreno Valley because there is no Round Table in Phoenix, even though half of California lives in Arizona now. So they stop to get Round Table pizza?
That's different.
That's very different.
Well, remember, we're spoiled. I think we have 3 of them within earshot of here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think not to go on a round table tangent, but like they went out of business, didn't they? But the franchises still kept around. Is that what it happened?
I have no idea.
With Round Table, I think
No idea.
years ago, I think them as a company kind of went under, and the only ones that stuck around were franchisees.
Aren't they supposed to be an honest pizza?
You think?
Okay, this doesn't sound very honest to me.
But yeah. I wouldn't have thought that's a thing.
All right. First Prime Alpha says it's a 3-hour drive without traffic. I haul butt to get there ASAP. Okay, good answer.
Man, 3 hours would be nice.
Oh, it would. I would do that drive.
All the time.
3 hours?
3 hours. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Drop in the bucket, man. Boom.
There you go. Fernando strikes back. Peeing before we leave, making sure the kids pee before we leave, then making sure they pee one more time. I don't have a long drive, so there's nowhere I stop regularly. When we're pulling into a parking garage, my kids like for me to roll the windows down and blast some Disney music. I know it doesn't really count, but I like playing Awesome Mix Volume 1. No matter how long you're stuck in the car, 15 hours or 15 minutes, enjoy it. Talk, joke, laugh, sing, and remember where you're going.
Absolutely.
Very good answers.
I agree.
That's the best because I feel like, it always has to do with, like, you have some of the coolest conversations.
You really do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
If you really think about it, whether we're on a plane or in a car, when we're going to the park, like you think about the conversations you're having.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great. I mean, you're talking about everything under the sun. Mm-hmm. And then we go to Disney and you're like, oh, and then, the park. Like you're bringing the park and you can't wait to get there.
But the vibe coming home is also like bittersweet.
It's a bittersweet, but you know what?
I do when I go right back to work the very next day, yeah.
But we're always thinking about our next trip.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which is in December.
Oh yes. Are you going to that 13? Okay. All right.
She needs to come.
Okay.
We've got the set up dirt cheap. Anyway.
Okay. People want to hear Jeff, so we got to get through the news fast.
Okay.
Rapid fire.
So now let's go to our news.
No, wait. I had something to say before we go there.
Oh, we're not going to our news yet.
Well, I figured you'd ask me, like, hey, what have you been up to?
What have you been up to?
Oh, hey. Thanks for asking. I had the opportunity to go to the screening.
Of the Joker?
No, even though it was a great film.
I love the Joker.
Great film, wasn't it?
Feel-good movie of the year.
Oh, yeah, man. I came out of there going, I am happy with my life because I am not him. Anyway, I had a opportunity to go to Lucasfilm.
Oh, yes.
The campus with Joe from Disney Universe to the premiere of the first 2 episodes of Resistance Season 2. And I'm going to tell you this right now.
Okay,
the show is a really good show. Very more kid-centric, though. More than Rebels. Okay. But where they're moving now, I'm like, oh, they're going good. Like, it's getting really, really intense and really good. It is bridging the gap. It actually takes place right before and into... what is it? Force Awakens.
Okay.
And it was really good. Amazing that I walked those halls.
That's cool.
Because I know where I am. Mm-hmm. And it was a trip. Because I'm like, I'm sitting in this room and George Lucas has been here. Dave Filoni has been in here. Favreau's been in here.
Ryan Johnson's been in there.
You got to ruin it.
Okay.
You think about who else has been in there.
Kathleen Kennedy.
She has, and I will give her props. I disagree with what she's doing now, but I cannot negate her past.
Okay.
So yeah, like amazing. So if you haven't seen the show, go see it. It's
okay.
Good. It'll probably and it will be on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Yeah, but great time. I have a ton of pictures. I didn't post them all because some of them are for me.
Okay. You know what would be good is if you record your thoughts and experiences that and put that on.
That would have been good for me to sit when I was sitting there.
Yeah.
But I was way too excited to be where I was at.
But now that you've collected your thoughts,
okay.
I think people would like to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I'm glad you got to do that. I was slightly envious, but I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah, it was very cool.
I mean, the closest I got was that one time we all went.
Mm-hmm.
Saw the fountain and stuff. I remember that.
Oh, the Yoda fountain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walked in and walked over. Yeah, it was very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you again for that, for everybody who got me in there. And I'm hoping to get in there one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now let's go to our news.
You listen to me now. You are talking about things that you do not understand.
All right. So there's some commotion going on in Tomorrowland right now, and that is the Tomorrowland FastPass station. Disney is preparing to test a new method for obtaining FastPasses at Disneyland. Currently, guests have the option to pay $15 to purchase MaxPass to make FastPass reservations on the Disneyland app or to scan their tickets at the FastPass kiosk by the attraction for free. With this new method, individual kiosks by the attraction, Buzz Lightyear, Astro Blasters, Hyperspace Mountain, and Star Tours will be phased out in favor of a centralized touchscreen kiosk for multiple attractions. In lieu of printed paper FastPasses, guests will then have to link their tickets to the Disneyland app to view their FastPass reservations. Ahead of testing, which begins today, October 15th, the new centralized FastPass kiosks have been installed in Tomorrowland, just outside of the Tomorrowland Theater, to the right of Space Mountain. They've been covered for now, but the kiosks feature a small slot for you to scan and link your phone or ticket, plus physical buttons, in addition to the touchscreens. For now, these centralized FastPass kiosks are just a test. Guest feedback will be an important factor in whether this method is rolled out across Disneyland. What do you guys think about this?
I think the first thought literally that comes to my head is please get rid of the paper tickets, because last time me and Jess were there, since they're already getting synced up to your app and your phone, people are leaving them behind and causing such trash problem. And me and Jess are so big about leaving trash behind. Me and Jess will go to, anytime we go to a kiosk, we will pick up all of the stuff and throw it away.
Yep.
And it's like, because it's not that difficult, people, it's really just 2 seconds. But but then the nostalgia of me is like, man, that's gonna be like the gone away of the ticket of like the A ticket and the B ticket and the C ticket. That's what it reminds me of too. It's like, it's another thing that's kind of just like makes me sad. But then what about people that are like not tech savvy?
Thank you.
It's like,
thank you.
Like,
that is where I was gonna go.
Like maybe have an option for both, but
well,
like,
what I think?
still.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Okay. I think they need to educate people better. Like if you have if you have an app, literally what they do is like if you have the app, do not print up a paper one. Do not. And hopefully maybe they can figure out an algorithm or something where if it's going to the phone, it will not print up a paper one.
Oh, sure. That's
Right.
easily done, yeah.
Yeah. So I think they can do it. It'll be fine because for us, we're like, okay, boom, app, and we're off and running because that is how we are.
But I could just see my mom, for example, like trying to figure that out.
I think I would sit there and watch your mom do that and laugh.
Yeah, I would too.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I would do it. Oh my gosh, now that is in my head right now.
Or maybe like have, when you go to Target or any store, you have your checkout, regular old fashioned checkout people, but then you have self checkout. Have that one loan machine that maybe people can use.
and then basically go paper ticket,
line
and paper ticket, and then app line.
Yeah.
Done.
Which they do in Florida to an extent. They have these random kiosks throughout each park that is a proprietary like tablet screen that you can load your fast passes onto, and they're just scattered throughout the whole entire park. Granted, there should be more than I feel like there should be. There's only like 2 per park, maybe 3, but they come in handy. Like in the case you don't want to do it online and on your computer, or you just don't want to use your phone, they have kiosks for that in Florida.
Could be good.
Yeah.
It could work out.
could have
but
potential.
Yeah, but the fact that you brought out these paper fast passes, I'm like, oh yeah, these are cool.
They are cool to have.
They're really cool. Yeah.
What happens when the line gets too long for these three things, these three machines that they have there, or what if they're down? I mean, they're kind of messed up.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like the fact that they're centralizing stuff, and but
It's a mixed review.
the picture we'll see how it goes. It actually
Well-
starts. It starts today as we talk.
Well, when we go in December, we'll look at it.
Okay. All right.
man.
Next item is Spider-Man attraction details. If you've ever thrust your wrist forward while pretending to shoot a web from it, and I know 13 has,
I have.
Disney's what?
I was just gonna say it's like because every person does that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we're making the little web thing.
Guilty.
Udi's doing it.
Yeah.
Disney's upcoming Spider-Man ride is going to try to give riders that sensation, courtesy of some new technology. We've known for a long time their new ride was in the works, but thanks to a recent panel at New York Comic-Con, a couple of Imagineering executives revealed that it will give each guest the feeling of having Spider-Man's web shooters on their wrists as they try to wrangle some spider bots that have gotten out of control. And I hate it when those spider bots get out of control. I know.
I've gotten used to it.
Yeah. Marvel.com posted a video of the recent New York Comic-Con panel where Scott Drake, a creative executive at Walt Disney Imagineering, explained what we can expect from the new ride. When the mischief that Peter Parker gets in, where spider bots are released all over the Avengers campus, he needs all of our help. That's where we step up. We get in these vehicles and we go on this crazy adventure through all different parts of the campus, cleaning up and slinging webs right next to Spider-Man.
Oh boy.
Kids are gonna go crazy
So guess
for it.
First thought.
Oh, my nephew's gonna go crazy on this ride.
So guests on the attraction will be able to shoot their own webs out of their wrists via immersive technology. Exactly what the technology is or how it works remains unclear. We've previously assumed that the new ride might feature individual mounted web shooters for each rider to shoot digital targets as the ride progresses, similar to Toy Story Mania. I hope it's not that. The untitled Spider-Man ride is set to open in Disney California Adventure sometime in 2020 and Disneyland Paris sometime in 2021. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait and see.
Wait
I
and
know.
see.
I know. You're kind of like
I mean,
because you don't like the shooter.
no, I don't.
attraction.
But I will definitely go do it.
Right.
Just like I will experience Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to see that as well, even though I'm not.
Yeah.
Jumping up for joy over it. Yeah.
Are you jumping for joy over the Spider-Man thing?
No. Okay. No. That's not hard. No. But I literally, my brain went, Spider-Man stuff. That means there's going to be Spider-Man merch. That means, is there going to be merch where you like string, silly string, and then there's going to be a mess in the park, and then people are going to have to clean it up? And
Grandma, slow down.
that's what I was thinking. That's where my brain
Look
went.
at Grandma went over like, oh no, it's gonna be a mess. You clean up your mess, Junior. Wow.
Okay. We're gonna wait and see. I mean, this is not any kind of. I don't know. We're gonna
It's
see.
news.
Yeah.
It's news. The new Adventureland sign has come open recently. It looks pretty good. Some people have said that the grass skirt on the new hut thing needs to go all the way down because it looks kind of barren. But there's a ladder there too that makes it look like it's a fort or something, which you can't really see in the picture. But I saw another picture with it. I think it looks pretty good.
It's about the same.
I like
it's
it.
like,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, yeah.
they didn't change it too crazy.
No.
No,
Oh, here is a fun one.
I'm glad it's back. What's up next?
Your next one.
Oh,
Your next story.
Jungle Cruise trailer dropped.
Yes.
You guys want to talk about that?
Yes. Looks so good.
You know, well, I hope everybody has seen it by now.
Yes.
And by the time,
Spoiler
This is
alert for a
published.
trailer.
yeah, I'm gonna go. Well, I love the fact that we've gotten now an idea of what the Skipper, the Rock's character is. I'm like, oh, you're a con man.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then the way he's activating his gags, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, oh, I love it. And then they did the backside of water in there, and I'm like,
Yes.
Okay, so I'll tell you a story. I'm at work, and we're literally on break. And when we take a break, we sit under a tree, an oak tree. And I'm sitting there watching it, and I have my coworkers around me. I'm like, yeah, when he goes backside of water. And then they look at me like, what? Well, dude, backside of water. I'm like, oh, you guys don't get it. But you guys understand. If you understood,
Yeah.
you would be excited right now that got worked in. They're like, okay. Well, I'm like, woo. Oh, well, I geeked out. I didn't care. I don't care. I'll geek out. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Good.
The one thing that is that ties into this, I was talking to my mom about that I find interesting is because I really love Emily Blunt, and I love Dwayne Johnson in general as actors. They're really good, and I think the old school thing of when you had the 50s Disney movies, when you had Mary Poppins, the original, and like Alice in Wonderland and stuff, you always had these key actors, right? That would be in like so many Disney films that you see them all the time. The guy who played like the Mad Hatter, I can't think of his name. But the repeat actors, you'd hear them in either animation or you'd see them in their movies all the time. And I feel like The Rock and Emily Blunt kind of give me that warm and fuzzy feeling again of like they fit in the Disney universe.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Right.
Like they just like the way they carry their actors is so good, and it reminded me of those times of that when you would see these like classic Disney actors and actresses. Kind of gave me that same feeling again, which is like it's great because then it makes me feel like okay, well they're not just trying to pull a moneymaker like making Maleficent 2 or things like that. Like this actually has some class, or the Haunted Mansion movie, for example, like trying to turn that into a movie. I feel like this actually has substance to it. And when I finished watching it, I'm like, okay, this is actually a real story here.
Yeah, well, that same vibe you got after, Curse of the Black Pearl. You looked at it and went like, oh, like, where are they going to go? And then that was my biggest question. And when you hear The Rock talking about, no, we wanted to honor Walt, I'm like, okay, well, you
Got some big shoes.
that is a big ask, and you guys better deliver. And then the feeling watching the trail, I'm like, they may have done it. But, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah.
2.5
Yeah.
minutes. So we'll see. But the vibe is definitely like I'm on
I think
board.
because also they said it in an older time period. I mean, that could just be me, but I think not making it modern of any sorts and made it like I think it was like a World War II era because she
I don't
when
know.
she lands on the
Oh yeah,
she lands on the bus.
on the bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah
So when is this release date?
summer next year.
2020. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, super excited.
I wonder how it's going to impact the attraction. Is it going to add more gas? Or are they going to add anything to it?
We're gonna get both of them in there probably.
I wonder if the guys and girls that are current skippers after it's out, I wonder if they're going to feel more pressure of their deliveries.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I hope not.
I wouldn't think so because I think they all, like, I don't think I've really had a bad skipper. I think I've had better ones and not so good ones, but never had a bad skipper.
I
that
agree.
I think that, I don't know, I wonder if they'll feel more pressure, like, to,
I hope not.
to be, deliver. But, something.
Yeah. Awesome. What's the next news item? Oh, okay. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad begins. The next major project at Disneyland has begun. Backstage buildings, including most of the Toontown Hills, have been removed to make way for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway attraction. Although construction inside the land has not yet begun, guests visiting Toontown will notice that something looks a little different. That's those Toontown Hills in the background have been taken out. Okay. And that's really the big news about that. I'm sure they're going to come back up. Maybe, maybe not. Who cares, really? I mean, do you? I don't.
Don't even care.
Unless it's blocking anything, which I don't.
Well, you can see the buildings behind it, but maybe they're going to come back later to hide the show a little bit.
Yeah, because unless it was really trying to hide something, or like, because I think about Galaxy's Edge and how they've put so much landscaping and stuff to make sure it's hidden. That
Yes.
I think that's the same idea that they had with that they were trying to give you more of a show with those hills.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, Bad show right now.
Bad show right now, but
Yeah.
that's okay for what
It's
they're
for
doing.
Toontown.
Yeah.
Well,
The last question of Tomorrowland with what's your question marks, and that was basically to talk about the construction. But I don't think we should go through that tonight because there was still a lot left to be resolved from that land. But basically, they're taking out the French fry rocks and doing some work on the buildings right to the left and right of the entrance. That's all we know.
Did they remove the tracks yet?
I don't think so. I have no idea. But we'll unpack that in a future episode. Was there anything else in the news? I thought there was something else we're going to talk about. No, I don't know.
Light week.
well, the blitz has begun for Disney Plus everywhere, social media.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's always in my
And
sponsor.
the vibe, I mean, the vibe I'm getting, because I have not on purpose gone to look at what they're releasing, but it feels like it's going to be their entire library.
Oh, okay.
Like everything.
of movies and such.
Oh,
Shows, going back, movies, yada, yada, yada. I'm like,
Oh my gosh, that's a Raven like all the time. Like
yeah, there you go.
yes.
Yeah, uh-huh.
nice.
So, yeah, but Mandalorian, hello. Anyway.
Awesome. All right, so that's the news. And now let's go to our feature presentation.
And now for our feature presentation.
Be sure to bring your death certificate.
Hey there, LTP listeners. We want to welcome to the show a very special guest. He's the author of The Unauthorized Story of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion. He's also the co-founder of the Mousetalgia podcast, and he's the founder of the DoomBuggies.com. This is one of our favorite foolish mortals. It is Jeff Baham. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, thanks. Hey, hi. Thanks for having me on the show. This is awesome.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to hang out with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why we love doing podcasts is we get to connect with people and we get the people that we like, people that we want to just talk shop with. And you definitely fit the bill for that.
Super.
Super. Okay, so yeah, some of our listeners do follow your show on Nostalgia, and so I think some of them do have a background of who you are and what you've done. But in the off chance that there are some people that haven't, heard your show or know what you do, can you just briefly describe how you got into Disneyland and then got into the Haunted Mansion?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great involved question. There's lots of different angles about my, Disney fandom. I think probably, my parents grew up in South Central LA and they had friends, and so their friends had kids about the same time as my parents, and so we all became almost like cousins. They would go down and visit. And they kind of used Disneyland as almost like a daycare for us back then. So they'd drop us all off as little kids, they'd just drop us off at Disneyland, and then they'd go off and have their, Knott's Berry Farm chicken dinners, and they'd leave us there at Disneyland to prowl around. So that's kind of where the love of Disneyland came from. And then you combine that with, I just grew up a monster kid. In the 70s, I loved monster movies. It was on television a lot. I loved Famous Monsters in Magazine, and so I just you kind of combine the creepiness of that with Disneyland, and the Haunted Mansion is kind of a natural thing. So when I'm a graphic designer. When I graduated from art school, it was right in the 90s before they really made you learn computer graphics, right? So I kind of realized websites were becoming a big thing, and I realized I need to know this for my profession. So I kind of combined that with my love of haunted stuff, and I decided to start a website. You know, some people were starting fan sites about their favorite band or their pet. I decided to start it about the haunted mansion, right? So, and so that eventually became doombuggies.com. That little let me just see if I can learn how to put a website together.
Oh yeah.
And that was the 90s, 1997. Halloween of 1997 was when I launched doombuggies.com. So this is going to be the 22nd anniversary.
Awesome. So, and that was 97. So were you using a WYSIWYG editor to get that out? Were you doing it in code?
Yeah, no, I was trying to kind of learn both, right?
Yeah.
But at the time I was still using whatever, let's see, I think my first version was on AOL servers, actually, like an AOL had home pages.
Yeah.
So I think it was their own WYSIWYG thing, like their little thing. And
sure.
I quickly got Dreamweaver. Whenever Dreamweaver came out at first, that's when I first really did my own kind of coding / WYSIWYG. It was kind of a combo, right? So, that's how that went.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so grew up in San Jose, and then has parents that grew up in South Central Los Angeles, but then you would use Disneyland, or they would use Disneyland as an all day babysitter for you. Man, yeah, those were the days. So from that, did you get an interest in theme parks in general, or is it just the attractions that you were drawn to, or did you know what you were drawn to at Disneyland back then?
Wow, that's a good question. I had that Haunted Mansion record also growing up. My parents wouldn't buy us Saturday Night Fever records or anything like that. No disco. But they buy us all the Disney records we wanted, right?
Sure.
So there was a Disneyland record called The Story and Song of the Haunted Mansion, and I loved that thing. It had beautiful artwork by an Imagineer actually named Colin Campbell, and it was just everything that I loved was in this record, like Disneyland and this haunted stuff and these great pictures. So I used to trace the pictures when I was a kid, and I kept breaking the records, and my mom would get all mad and then buy me a new one. And I just must have gone through 3 or 4 of those. That kind of made me love. I mean, there was something involved with that and Disneyland together, I also grew up, San Jose had its own theme parks. There's Frontier Village. We were talking about offline, Frontier Village. Yes. And you might remember that. That had some Disney I think a Disney Imagineer also worked on Frontier Village, and it had some Frontierland kind of elements to it.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
And then we had Great America, of course. I remember Marriott's Great America. I think it opened in 1976, for that bicentennial.
Yep, absolutely.
And I remember in 1975, they had a big model in this mall, Eastridge Mall in San Jose. And I used to look at that thing every week and just think about how amazing it was going to be to have a theme park in San Jose.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, theme parks are definitely a part of my, history. And I don't, the Disney part of it, I remember. So when I went to college and the Disney thing became a little bit less important to me while I was learning graphic design and getting my first job, excuse me. And then I remember going to the Disney store. The Disney store opened sometime in the late 80s, I think, or maybe the early 90s. And I would go there with my girlfriend. We'd drive all the way to Palo Alto just to go to the Disney store. And once I was in there shopping and I heard this young guy who was, at the time I was probably 20, so he was probably 24, 25. So it may be someone famous now, but he was I just got my first job as an Imagineer, and he was talking to the cast members in the Disney store about becoming an Imagineer. And I just remember thinking at that moment, there's something magic happening in this guy's life. He is setting off to something amazing. And I think that was kind of a moment when I started to look at Disney again in a different light, the history of it and the creativity behind it and everything that's involved with creating the theme parks. I think that was a moment that kind of sticks out in my mind as recognizing, I don't want to use the word gravity, but that it's more than Great America or Frontier Village. This was something different. And that's kind of that's my theme park history in a nutshell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There are, when you're talking, I'm sitting here going, absolutely. There is a moment in time where I think all of us go from the kid-like innocence of the park, and then we start recognizing, oh my goodness, there's a lot here. There's so much going on, and it is brilliant. You know, there are touches everywhere, and you're like, holy smokes, this is way better than, way deeper than I could have ever imagined as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, over the past decade, when I've really been diving into nostalgia and been able to talk to some of these Imagineers that worked with Walt Disney, I mean, it's, it's a history of our popular culture in America. You know, it's a really a cultural history moment that's rare. And in most cultures, you know, these moments where you find something that changes the world, like that's a rare little occurrence, you know. And here we are kind of witnessing the tail end of that, right? So, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very, very glad to hear you say that, because you know our podcast is. I mean, first and foremost, we love the history of Disneyland, and we are very honest about it and very protective of that. And so we're just. I should say we are cautiously looking to the future of Disneyland and taking it month by month as to see what's happening next. And you know, I mean, we're just that group of people that were like, okay, hold on, what are you guys doing here? And you guys better do it right. And we're gonna get into that a little bit later in this episode about what you think about everything that's going on with the current stuff. But let's go back. So the history of the Haunted Mansion here. You know what? Actually, Jeff, I did read on your website. You had a very interesting quote, and maybe I wanted you to expand upon this. So this is from your own site, where you mentioned, I live in the Silicon Valley, and I try to get down to Disneyland at least 3 times a year for creative renewal. I simply find that in terms of my artistic nature, Disneyland is a refreshing place to be. So I suspect you go more than 3 times a year now. I think this is an older quote from you. But what I found it interesting about that is because you have an artistic nature. How is it that you find Disneyland to be refreshing, and how does that help get your creative juices flowing?
Inspire.
Yeah, inspire. There you go.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do get down there somewhat frequently these days. I just got back actually 2 days ago from Disneyland, and I went for a couple hours just to eat at the Bengal barbecue. So it is kind of one of those things when I'm around there, I'll try to get there to be soaked in the atmosphere.
Sure.
And I don't want to sound, what's the word? Pollyanna's not the word. I mean, there's a lot of artists that take inspiration from Disneyland, and it's not always about like smelling the flowers and laughing at people's hats and Disney bounding. Sometimes it's a little bit more just, it helps me remember the history of popular culture in America. And it also has a little bit of a mid-century flair that I personally appeals to my aesthetic sense and my design. So I can, part of it is being in a place that still feels like authentic mid-century design. So that's like a literal thing. But a big part of it is also just, I know people that have worked here and over the years and still working there and have worked there. And I can revisit what I know about them and how, all these people work together to make this unique situation that people can just absorb, energy from. I guess I don't want to sound too weirdly metaphysical, but
no.
It's just, it's just a very inspirational, in the literal meaning of the word, like an inspirational place for me. And then the little part of it is literally the history nut in me. I just like to feel like, Walt Disney did walk right around here somewhere, and I can, you know what I mean? So there's little bits and pieces of a lot of things that come together to make it inspirational to me. I mean, and I can find inspiration other places in the world. It doesn't have to be Disneyland, but that definitely is one of the places.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, are you at the point now where because like when I go, I could literally not go on any attractions and have a really good time walking around, observing, taking in the sights, and grabbing something to eat, and just sitting around. course, my daughters won't let me do that, but I definitely have a great time just doing that. Are you at that point where you can do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I rarely go on attractions anymore. I mean, I used to. It's been attractions somewhat bore me these days. I mean, because it's not because they're not awesome. It's just because the wait versus the payoff of something very familiar to me isn't quite worth perhaps the payoff of just walking around and observing, what's new in retail, or what's this new sandwich taste like.
Sure.
So I find the payoff to be a little bit more weighted towards the experience of being there than the attraction experience. But of course, attractions are kind of cool with friends, right? So it's different if I'm going myself, or if I'm going with just one person that's very familiar to me, or if I'm going with a bunch of friends. Especially if you're going with someone that's never been there before, hasn't been there in a long time, then it's all about the attractions and like, check this out and check that out. And but yes, definitely. Usually when I go to Disneyland these days, it's either probably once a year. It's just to kind of be there for half a day and, just watch things happen. And like we were talking about before, the atmosphere. Yeah. And then maybe once or twice to like report on something new, like, oh, there's a new parade, or there's a new sandwich, or there's a new something or other.
Okay.
And then maybe another couple times are just, friendships that are more for the attractions and that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's talk a little bit about history of the Haunted Mansion. And so I seem to recall a couple odd things about the Haunted Mansion, and I'm sure you will correct me. But I think I remember seeing an original park map or concept of Main Street, and there was a haunted house up to the left side. That would be like the west side of Main Street. Is that correct? In the original concept, there was Haunted Mansion. Actually, it was called a haunted house back then.
Yeah, well, sort of. So, Herb Ryman created like the early kind of idea of Disneyland for Walt Disney. There's this famous Lost Weekend where they sat together and knocked out this big map of Disneyland. And on the west side at the end of Main Street, there's like an old house, and you kind of feel like, well, what's that?
Sure.
And,
yes.
Most of us Haunted Mansion nerds kind of feel like, well, that's probably where Walt Disney wanted a haunted house. There were concept drawings dating back to about then of a haunted house on a hill, and that was also part of the early plans for, I guess, Mickey Mouse Park, before Walt even had figured on Anaheim being Disneyland.
Yeah.
So, you kind of feel like he probably always wanted a haunted house. And it's not surprising. Most amusement parks had some kind of Tunnel of Love or Dark Ride or Spook House. So there's nothing surprising about Walt wanting to have a haunted house there. And so I think that's what you're thinking of. I think the earliest time they actually called it a haunted house, it was located a little bit more towards kind of where Tarzan's treehouse is right now.
Yeah, yeah. So you mean like the 1958 map, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's when they first
go ahead.
Called it a haunted house.
Yes, a haunted house.
That's fine.
So that was going to lead me to the next part, because I didn't see it after that original map. And then I remember seeing it in 58, and I think there's like an A map or a B map or something like that, and it just shows it on the backside of Adventureland, and that thing looks incredible. Like, oh my gosh, this would have been so awesome. But sorry, so that's where you were in the history. So here we are in 1958. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's great. And I think the Haunted Mansion as an attraction was kind of more part of the whole New Orleans addition they were going to put into Frontierland. So Frontierland kind of had this New Orleans street, and then they thought, well, let's build this Pirates kind of area. And so where that haunted house is, where Tarzan's treehouse is, kind of was going to be more like, it's not far from New Orleans Square, right? So Pirates is going to be kind of where it is, and then the New Orleans Square was going to push out to the haunted house, which is right kind of there, a little bit southeast of Pirates, and then New Orleans Square was going to wrap around to where it is now, right? So I think some of the earliest plans for the Haunted Mansion were really more like part of this pirate experience. We're going to have this cool New Orleans like French Quarter that was very beautiful and clean and kind of an idealized French Quarter of New Orleans, and all these little shops and restaurants. And then there was this little like, oh, but you can also go through our wax museum of all the evil, pirates of history. And then there was going to be this house that was kind of derelict at the end of New Orleans Square, and that was going to be the home of one of the pirates from New Orleans. Bartholomew Gore is how Ken Anderson named him. And so the Haunted Mansion actually started more as like an adjunct to the Pirates of the Caribbean walkthrough attraction. So they were both going to be walkthrough exhibits. And you could walk through the Pirates exhibit, which was kind of, I mean, they call it like a wax museum, but it was a little more involved than that. They were going to have some animatronic scenes, and you would enter and kind of walk across this big ship, and then you would kind of be in the dungeons, and you'd see all these scenes and things, and then you could also walk across the patio over to this area that was kind of run down and ramshackle and go into Captain Gore's home and then hear the story of his unfortunate demise. So that's kind of where Ken Anderson started the whole Haunted Mansion idea.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
And then
no, go ahead.
Yeah. So it actually has some of the things that are in the Haunted Mansion today have a few roots in there in that old plan for this Captain Bartholomew Gore's house. It was a story of his bride and how he murdered her. So the bride continues. Famously, there's a ship at the top of the Haunted Mansion's weather vane that kind of is a callback to, people believe it's a callback to the early plans that were going to be about a captain of a ship. And, and it has a few different things that kind of may have made their way into the Haunted Mansion as it exists now. More or less, it was pretty different animal, though. It was, you're going to walk through and you're going to hear the story about how this captain, the sea captain and his bride were to get married, or they had just got married, and she discovered he was actually a pirate, not a captain of a reputable ship, but an evil pirate. So he murders her and stuffs her in a box, and then she comes back and haunts him. And so he kills himself at the end of the attraction. So pretty dark, right, for a Disneyland thing. But that was kind of the story as they put it together, roughly.
Did it say how he murdered her?
I don't think so. I think it was just he killed her and stuffed her in a chest, because at the end you would see the special effect like of a chest. I don't think you ever found out what happened to her until the end when she came out of a chest, like she jumped out of a chest to something like that. So I think there's only story outlines for this, this version of the Haunted Mansion. It's not really, they didn't actually really, I think he may have tested some of the effects and things and maybe built some mock-ups and things, but it was never got much into a development phase at this point.
Okay.
That would have been weird.
Well, because now I think I'm jumping forward. I'm sorry, I'm just all over the place here because my mind is wandering. So Jim Corcus had mentioned to us that he said that there's a scene in the current Haunted Mansion where you actually become the bride, and that's when you get thrown out. Was when the dune buggy turns backwards and you go backwards down, and you can see the outside of the mansion. Inside as you come down to the graveyard, and he said that was when you become the bride and you were actually dying, going down and into the graveyard. And I go, I don't even know what you're talking about, Jim. And sure enough, when we went on it next, sure enough, as soon as the dune buggy turns, we start going backwards down. We see the outside of the mansion.
Yep.
So you must be completely familiar with this, right, Jeff?
Well, sure. I mean,
sure.
Okay. So, so let me say this. So there are a lot of lots of explanations for things. So there are some Imagineers that would say, well, no. And then there's some Imagineers that said, well, it's kind of open to your interpretation, to that specific idea. And I mean, you clearly are in some sense supposed to feel yourself, coming out of the mansion and knowing that you're kind of entering a new space, because it does dip you backwards, right? And so I would say this, though. When Tony Baxter and the Imagineers recreated the Haunted Mansion for Paris, and Disneyland, Disneyland Paris, they clearly wanted you to believe that as you dipped down and fell out of the Haunted Mansion or the Phantom Manor, that you were becoming, you were entering your grave, because you go down under the ground, you see all these graves coming out of the ground next to you. And so, looking at that and then saying, well, maybe that's, if that's how they're reflecting this scene, maybe there is something to the whole, well, you're coming out, you're falling out of the mansion, or, somehow joining the afterlife party. Personally,
Yes.
I don't see the documentation for oh, well, you fell out and you were dying and becoming part of the graveyard, But I mean, I've heard that lots of times, and Jim Korkis knows what he's talking about. So who am I?
Yeah, well, you're Jeff Bam.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think after he kind of said that, when we wrote it again, I'm like, okay, now I can feel that, because you're clearly transforming, and then now you're in the graveyard, and okay, am I dead now? You have that. I don't know. I have that feeling. It's always a weird transformation.
But it could have very well been the power of suggestion on his part.
Well, I agree.
Okay.
But yeah,
like storytelling
Yep.
coming to life
Yep.
kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
So, actually, one of our listeners had a question for you, and I was going to ask it towards the end, but this actually kind of fits into where we are in our conversation. So, this is from Fernando. He said, curious how he feels, he being you, Jeff, curious how he feels about Pirates Mansion, Tom Sawyer's Island connection that never was. Would it have worked if they tried to tie them together, or was it a doom buggy, or was it doomed from the start? He tried to be funny. So yeah, he wanted...
that was funny.
Okay.
I would have to say, well, that was a very involved. So that's a real thing, right? And it was someone's idea, it was a proposal, and it was super involved. So, I mean, you kind of look at what they're doing with Galaxy's Edge, which is, in my opinion, sort of a similar idea, where we're going to make this big mythology and storyline behind this whole land, right? So could they have done that with New Orleans Square? I don't see any reason why not. Now, it wasn't built that way to begin with. So if it was a reimagining, or, sometimes it's hard to do that when doesn't begin that way. I haven't really, I've read that kind of stuff with interest, and that's about all I can really say about that. I haven't given it a ton of thought as to, what would have been if this had gone forward.
I mean, it sounds kind of cool, right?
Definitely, yeah, it definitely sounds kind of cool. And I mean, I've heard people talking about tunnels from the island under New Orleans Square, and all kinds of amazing stuff, right? So, and it all does, the Haunted Mansion and the Pirates of the Caribbean, they feel consistent. They were designed at the same time. They're the same kind of show. It's, I don't know if I have really a well-formed opinion of the whole concept, but I, it's very intriguing. That's about the best I can say.
Okay. Right on. Okay, so that gets us to post 1958, and then so what are we at? 1964-ish is when we start seeing.
World's Fair.
Well, okay.
The World's Fair.
Yeah. Well, so 1958. So Ken Anderson also. So he did this Captain Gore thing, right? But they also changed that. They kind of at some point early on there, I think 1957 actually, Walt said, let's that may be around when they kind of started with the pirate idea, but quickly they kind of realized this needs to be not really a pirate thing. Let's make it its own thing. So there was a moment when it kind of became more. Then Ken Anderson got a little more involved with the story, and it became about the Blood family. So instead of the Gores, or the Captain Gore, it was the Bloodmere family. You can see his Halloween brain working here, right? All these scary words and scary names. So it came up with a little bit more involved story. He still kept the bride in there. There's always been a bride. That's perhaps why the bride made her way into the final attraction, even though they really kind of jettisoned the story. Ken Anderson really had a strong kind of a desire to have this story of a lone or a doomed bride in the Haunted Mansion. So the Bloodmere family, there was, and there's a few stories that he did a few drafts of this also, but essentially a lot of the things that we know in the Haunted Mansion started to show up more and more. There were changing portraits. There was, famously, it was still a walking tour at this time. So you would walk through with groups of people, and you'd be led by and you'd start off with a cast member, but then Hury, the arm, this creature, would grab him and yank him off the stage, and then you would follow this lonesome ghost character for the rest of the attraction. And there's kind of a famous scene at the kind of the climax of the Haunted Mansion. Well, the first one would be you'd walk into the parlor, and outside in the graveyard you'd see you'd have this encounter with the Headless Horseman. And that was kind of I don't know if that was supposed to be the highlight. I would kind of make it equal to like what the ballroom is in the Haunted Mansion as it exists. Like, it was kind of this big scene you'd stand and watch for a while, and then you'd end up eventually in a ballroom seeing this wedding happen with the bride. And there were different versions of that. There's a period of time when he thought, well, they'll be a little more comical, and they'd invite all the Universal monsters would come to this, and all these different creatures would be attending the wedding. And so, a lot of the things that did make it into the Haunted Mansion kind of had genesis here. It was, like I said, still a walking thing, but you would kind of finish up and leave, walking over tombstones in the ground and, an old graveyard, and passing family crypts. And so it was more of a kind of a haunted house, a traditional haunted house, less of a pirate estate and more of a haunted house. And that was, 57, 58 when Ken Anderson was working on this stuff. And then he eventually went back to animation. He came from animation. I don't know, maybe this wasn't quite clicking with Walt. I'm not 100% sure exactly. Also Ken had some experience in animation. Sleeping Beauty was behind. They kind of could use his help. So he went back and worked on Sleeping Beauty with animation. And then Walt kind of was left with, well, what are we going to do to go forward? So he had Yale Gracie come in and start looking at what Ken Anderson had done. And they didn't ditch it. They kind of started there. And he said, like, well, how can we make this, a step beyond? Because I think Ken Anderson had ideas that were sort of like they have now in Fantasyland, similar types of ideas, maybe on a bigger scale, but cycloramas and, kind of, spook house stuff. And I think Walt wanted it to be more magical, like a magic show. So that's why he called Yale in, because he knew Yale Gracie would just tinker around with stuff. He kind of had that reputation. So he had Yale come in and, come up with some ideas. And then he also assigned this young kid named Rolly Crump to help Yale. And Rolly has told me, like, he was really, at that point in time in 58, 59, he was just Yale's helper. He would make the boxes and help Yale get materials. And Yale really was doing he would brainstorm with him, but Yale was really doing the creative stuff, and Rolly was still basically apprenticing. Imagineers have apprentices. Tony Baxter's was Claude Coates. One of Rolly's was Yale Gracie. And he just would kind of learn the trade from Yale. And so they came up with a bunch of stuff. Yale Gracie started to look at Pepper's ghost effects. He started to look at projection effects. He was really trying to take the Haunted Mansion into a more spooky, more magical place than Ken Anderson was. And so that happened for a few years. Yale Gracie and Rolly just trying stuff, building these big, elaborate kind of walk-through partial haunted houses that people could come check out their stuff. There's a famous story, you've probably heard it, where Rolly said they set up all their stuff and they kind of triggered it on purpose to kind of spook the janitors that would come in at night. And so I guess janitors quit the next day or so. I don't know. It's a story that Rolly likes to tell about, how they would mess around and kind of prank people with their haunted, spooky things. And so that happened. And, and some of that also contributed to what we have today, is the Haunted Mansion. So obviously the Pepper's Ghost idea stuck, because the biggest, most magical effect in the Haunted Mansion is the Pepper's Ghost effect. And, Yale kind of conceptualized projecting on, talking onto stones and statues to see how that would work and if it would look right. And a lot of that stuff and made its way into the Haunted Mansion, and that was around the turn of the 60s. And then of course Walt was meanwhile making a deal to involve Imagineering with the World's Fair pretty heavily. He saw some opportunities there in a lot of ways, both for R&D. I think he also saw that he could get some corporations to pay for some attractions that he could bring back to Disneyland. So I think that was an idea that was strongly appealing. And also Wet Enterprises, I think he wanted to build it into a not just Disneyland, but we can do stuff. We can build things for you. You know, look at what we've done for all these corporations for the World's Fair. So all that kind of went together, and pretty much everything at the parks got slowed down a little bit while they worked on the World's Fair. And really, it doesn't come up till, like you were saying before, 1964-ish, when everyone kind of was done with the World's Fair things that was installed, and they could start to focus on Disneyland again.
Okay. And then it officially opened to the world in what, 69?
Yeah.
Is
Because
that
it's the anniversary year.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We just had the 50th. Yes. Okay. So that's a brief history of the Haunted Mansion.
Very
I don't know how brief it was.
It wasn't brief, but I'm sure people want to learn more. They can read the
yeah.
unauthorized history of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion by author Jeff Baham. So now let's talk about something. And I guess I'm kind of puzzled by all this cultural phenomenon, probably like in the last 15 years with this Halloween thing. Like when I was a kid growing up, same with you, Jeff, there was no Halloween party in Udi. There was no Halloween party at Disneyland.
There was not,
nothing going on.
No.
I mean, nothing going on. I know people will say that the Country Bear Jamborees were the first attraction to have an overlay, but I'm going to say the Matterhorn was, because Matterhorn had that gigantic star at the very top.
Yep.
But anyways, that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic. Yeah, yeah. So can you explain, Jeff, what in the world is going on with this Halloween season, and why does the Haunted Mansion seem to be the whole centerpiece of this whole thing? When in society did we start getting?
When did we get a fascination with the spookiness more and stuff? And is that
because I remember haunts. I mean, okay, so I mean, you guys won't remember this, but I mean, growing up in San Jose, the Winchester Mystery House used to have little candlelight things back in the day, but that was really about it. And then all of a sudden you hear not Scary Farm, and then all of a sudden Disneyland starts going, oh, now we need to do our little thing, and then we have the overlay of this. Okay, first off, let's go to the overlay, Jeff. Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts with
Nightmare?
Yeah.
Nightmare Before Christmas overlay? Is that what you're thinking of? Yeah. Because I mean, I think maybe the purchasing of Nightmare Before Christmas, like in the mid 90s, might have started. They wanted to incorporate.
Yeah.
That. Is that what we're thinking?
So,
yeah.
Is more holiday feel.
And how and why did this happen? I'm not complaining. I'm just curious.
Okay. So there's a lot to unpack here, right?
Sure.
And actually, the answer to your original question is I don't know. I don't know why culture twists and turns to different things.
Yeah.
You know, why is pop vinyl a thing, and why am I buying it? You know, and why are people buying pins?
Oh.
Why are people buying pins?
So,
why
13 has a massive pin
pin collection.
Yes.
Okay,
That's kind of funny.
Hard.
So you know what? I do too. I don't even collect them, and I have a bajillion pins. So
you should trade some.
Yeah. The whole concept, right?
So here's here's the question, right? Why do things happen? I don't know. However, there's a couple things we can look at here, right? So, I mean, Halloween as an attraction kind of is separate from the Haunted Mansion, right? So, like you were saying, I grew up in the 70s when haunted houses were kind of started to become more of a thing, like a local thing, like corn mazes, and the JCs would have haunted houses around the country. You know, you'd have this like haunted house where they'd set up like the operating room and with the person ripping someone's guts out, you know, or the strobe light room, right? So those things happened like in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
That's when I was into haunted houses. In the 80s, you know, I was building strip mall haunted houses. So why where did that come from? I mean, there's a history somewhere out there. Someone could tell you that story better than I could, but that was happening, right? And so Knott's Berry Farm started Scary Farm, I think, in the 70s. I'm trying to remember. It was pretty early. I mean, they've been doing that for a long time. I think in the 70s, someone just had a brilliant idea, right? And so Disneyland, actually, I did this thing. It's kind of a joke on nostalgia, but I was in part of a council, the creative advisory council for Disneyland in I think it was, I don't even remember, 2003 maybe?
Okay.
Something like that. And one of the things we talked about was a potential Halloween for Disneyland. Like they were trying to figure out, like at Disneyland specifically, I think they were just trying to figure out how do we not give up to Knott's Berry Farm? Like we can't just give up, you know, because Knott's Scary Farm was definitely a thing by the turn of the century.
Okay.
And I think they were like, this is not something we can just, you know, allow to, you know, just not be our thing. So they were talking about Halloween. I mean, they had some really cool ideas about like the smell of burning leaves they would pipe in, and paper tissue leaves that would be drifting down all afternoon, you know, from the tops of Main Street.
Wow.
So they had some pretty cool ideas. But it was still not really Halloween. You know, they wanted it to be they still wanted to keep the Mickey Mouse country thing higher than the Halloween part. I think when Nightmare Before Christmas, somewhere in there, meanwhile, Nightmare Before Christmas was gaining its cult following, right? Because it did not do so well in the theaters. It was, I think, kind of did all right, but nothing special. But then it, you know, became this thing. And I think especially in Japan, and then that came over to America, and it was starting to get this rep. And so Tony Baxter at first wanted to, like you said, there was this, the haunted, so Disneyland's always had theming. Like you said, the Matterhorn had a big star for the holidays. Country Bears had their special, you know, vacation showdown, or whatever. And then I think when the Small World had its first holiday overlay, like people loved that to death. And I think Tony Baxter looked at that and said, we need to do that in the Haunted Mansion. So his idea was to put the Ghost of Christmas Past in there and bring like kind of the Dickens era to the Haunted Mansion, which what do you think about it would be awesome, right?
Very cool. Yeah.
Everything right, you know, about the theme of the Haunted Mansion and the era. So that was his idea. I think it was Tony Baxter. Someone in Imagineering kind of brought that to the table for various reasons that I don't even really know, that never really got off the drawing board. But the idea of the next attraction that we should overlay being the Haunted Mansion stuck, right? So that's when they somehow came up with, well, let's put the haunted, you know, let's mix our, properties here and put the Nightmare Before Christmas into the Haunted Mansion, which didn't have, I mean, it started with a few little bumps, right? Because Tim Burton was kind of reticent about letting the Nightmare Before Christmas leave his creative control, although he never really had creative control, but he was, I mean, he obviously created it, right? But Disney, you know, it's a Disney film, so they kind of own it, right? So, and I have talked to a couple people who I won't name, but they kind of were saying like, well, we had the right to do whatever we wanted, but we wanted to kind of what they did not want was Tim Burton going on the news saying like, this is a travesty, you know. That wouldn't. But at the same time, there were some hiccups there. Notably, the most public thing was the music. Like they came up with what I consider a really cool soundtrack for the first year, but Danny Elfman did not fall in love with it, which makes sense because Danny Elfman like wrote a full score for the actual film. So they ditched that after the first year and put in some of music that was reworked from Danny Elfman's themes because they just had to do that the first year because, like I was saying, it was a little bit like there was a little trepidation in there about putting this together without Tim Burton's, really without his involvement too much. I know some of the artwork that they had created for the special events and things, you know, around the launch of The Nightmare Before Christmas kind of got vetoed by Tim Burton, and they weren't really like, it wasn't really his place to veto it, but like I said, they weren't gonna have him saying like, you can't, you know, I don't want this. he had to at least be nominally on board. So it's had a little bit of a rough start, but it all worked out. He came around. He's happy about it. They put in music that he likes. I think now and also I think his view of Nightmare Before Christmas has radically changed. I think he's let it go. Like, it's just become, another cultural thing, right? And so no one really can control that, so, there's so many representations of Jack and Sally now, from cutesy to spooky to dramatic, that I think he's just kind of let that become its own thing. So that's kind of at least my perspective of the thumbnail of the background of Haunted Mansion Holiday. I don't know. I'm not going to try to tell you that's 100% accurate, but that's kind of how what I've gleaned over the years. Okay. And I think it's cool. I mean, there's people like that will die on either side of this Haunted Mansion Holiday debate, whether it should be there or not. I'm pro anything in Disneyland that's temporary, because then it's like a new experience for someone. If you don't love it, you can just not go then, and you can, and everything's back to normal. So from that perspective, I like it. I kind of, in general, I would love it more if it came online at the same time as the Small World overlay for the holidays. And if the Haunted Mansion was still haunted for Halloween, I'd probably like that more. But, it's popular. It's always popular. So, again, who am I to, have opinions? It seems to be, people seem to really love it. So, I can see why they would have it there as long as they can. And, I mean, there you go.
Well, what do you guys think about the holiday overlay?
Interesting thing to note is I believe Florida doesn't do it. I think it's just land.
Is that true?
I'm pretty sure Florida doesn't do the overlay.
Wait. What was that?
I don't believe. I believe World doesn't do the overlay at all.
Oh yeah, no, they don't do it.
Because I was there. I was there at Walt Disney World in October last year, and being a Disneyland person all the time, I was like, yeah, Haunted Mansion overlay, and then I kind of get there and I went, there's no overlay.
What's that?
Which is fine. Again, the same agreement is that I could take either one, but I was like, oh, we're different over here. Well, there's a lot of things different over here, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I remember when they were, Imagineers were crawling around the Walt Disney World Haunted Mansion, and the rumor was, they're going to bring it over. And what they were doing was kind of putting together the ideas and kind of making plans to put it in Tokyo Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, which more closely resembles the Walt Disney World Haunted Mansion. So, I don't know that they will ever put it into Walt Disney World. I mean, you kind of, the common story about that is that, well, Disney World is for people that only maybe will come once in a lifetime, or once in a while, so they don't want to change things too much. I don't know if that's totally the reason or not, but
Makes sense.
I think there is good reason to agree with that. Yeah, because we go on and on about the differences between World and Disneyland, and a lot more people will go, and they're more of the local park. Disneyland is the locals park. So we are much more in tune with that park, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Haunted Mansion, all these questions I have. So out of any of the attractions, this thing seems to be spawning the most merchandise too. So what is up with that? Why aren't we getting Jungle Cruise stuff?
Because I think the aesthetic, personally.
But you can make a case.
You're just mad because you want more Jungle Cruise stuff and more Adventureland stuff.
I want. Okay, I mean, case in point, Matterhorn turned 60 this year. There's
nothing.
There's a souvenir pin.
Oh, and there is a Funko Pop that is super limited too.
Yeah, it's super limited. I can't get it. Jeff probably has it though.
Yeah.
But there was no Matterhorn party that I could have paid for. And I would have paid for such an event. And we're going to get to that party in a second. So what is all this merchandise coming out for? And what's going on here with this Haunted Mansion? What'd you say?
I just said it's so pretty. I love the aesthetic of Haunted Mansion.
Well,
I'm looking at the pop, this piece right here, and in this little piece right here, the wallpaper is one of my favorite things about Haunted Mansion. And it's just wallpaper. Like, and people will pay money to get that wallpaper put into their house.
Jeff, do you have the wallpaper in your house?
I don't know if I should tell this story. So, okay. Well, here's a brief sidetrack. Okay. So, for the Haunted Mansion's 40th anniversary, I actually worked with Walt Disney Records a little bit to make the wallpaper for the box record set. I don't know if you saw the box set. They had they put the 12-inch on vinyl and reissued that, and then they put a CD of the Haunted Mansion, like a new soundtrack and sound effects CD, and they put it together into a box set that had some lithographs. Came out for the 40th anniversary, which I guess has been 10 years ago.
Sure.
And I worked with them a little bit because they needed, why remake something that someone already probably has? And here's another side note to the side note. Over the years, like you would think Disney has an archive and a library and everything, right? So
Sure.
why would they come to Doombug? I don't actually know why, but over the years, artists and video game designers, people working for Disney, routinely come to Doombuggies and say, "Hey, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have a?" So it's just not as easy as you might think to like call up the archives and say, "Hey, I need to find this." You know what I mean? So a lot of times they would just call Doombuggies. Same thing happened in for the 2009 for the 40th anniversary. So I actually made a wallpaper file for them. They used it. And then I thought, well, I have this. It's pretty accurate. Disney's used it. Might as well load it up onto Spoonflower, right? So I did that. And quite a few people, have houses that are wallpapered with this wallpaper. Of course, Disney, before too long, decided that, and there were lots of people that have this wallpaper file on Spoonflower. It wasn't just me. I mean, I like to think mine was the most, mine actually was used by Disney in something. Right. So there's that. But Disney shut us all down, and as nicely as they could. They just told Spoonflower, "This is ours. You can't sell it anymore." So Spoonflower told all of us, "Sorry, you can't do this anymore." And so, having said all of that, I do have a roll that I'm hoping someday to put somewhere in my house. I'm not sure that I would do a whole room with that, but I could imagine one wall with like a little chair rail and then that wallpaper above it. I could imagine doing that. I haven't yet, but
Okay.
I would probably do that.
That's cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and I have to agree with.
So, but wait,
Go ahead.
let's go back to your question.
Okay, go.
Like, why all the stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
Why all the stuff? Well, so people are always asking me, like, why does everyone love the Haunted Mansion? Like, that's my chief goal in life, to figure out, like, why does everyone love the Haunted Mansion?
That's
I
your last
probably will have that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably will publish, a paper on this on my deathbed. Like, this is what I finally figured out. I have no ill idea. I have some theories. I mean, the most kind of boring but obvious one is that there's something in this attraction to appeal to many different subcultures, like magicians, actors, artists, goths, Disneyland fans, theme park fans, performing artists. There's a lot of different, Halloween people, lots of different genres of fandom kind of merge in the Haunted Mansion. I mean, that's kind of an obvious but also authentic reason that it's so popular. We were just talking on my podcast about this, I think last week, about how, has Disney gone overboard, though, with the merch? Like, they're starting to put out some stuff that I consider to be garbage. And when they do that, you feel like, are you going to dilute your brand, or what's going to happen here if you start selling junk, right? So, yeah. I don't have a great, other than what I just described to you, I don't have a great answer yet for why does everyone love the Haunted Mansion. I have had Imagineers come up to me and say, while the internet was in development, and I hate to toot my own horn because I don't even know if this is at all accurate, but they said, by making Doombuggies and having a place where people could congregate, it kind of planted a little seed for this particular thing that nothing else really had, and that can be remnants of that, that may not last forever, but that could be part of kind of the congregation of fans that make up Haunted Mansion fans. Obviously, it's bigger than that now. I mean, Funko just put out national Haunted Mansion releases all over the place. I do not have a great answer as to why this and not the Matterhorn. Other than, I mean, the scale of the attraction itself is much larger and bigger. I mean, it's a story, it's an experience. The Matterhorn is essentially a thrill ride. So you can imagine like why, you know, Disneyland has a couple big story rides. Pirates, Haunted Mansion, you could say the Jungle Cruise, although that's a little bit less, you know, that's a little bit more. I mean, there's things you can equate to the Jungle Cruise, like a real Jungle Cruise, you know, but there's really not much you can equate to Pirates or the Haunted Mansion. It's kind of unique Disneyland, right? So, I don't know. I'm just going to be spinning wheels, making guesses here at this point. I don't really know specifics. You know, I don't have a great feel yet for what makes a Haunted Mansion fan, but I will tell you, it is, like I said, one of my life goals to figure that out. And I mean, the spoiler alert, I know there's not a definitive answer there, you know, but I'm going to keep trying to nail it down a little bit, you know, and figure some of that out.
Well, I have to agree with you at one level that it does appeal to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. I mean, growing up as a kid, I didn't really ever go in. One, religious background, you don't go mess with ghosts, and then two, a little scary. But now, yeah, definitely become one of my favorite attractions, and I think it's that. I mean, you have so many different things going on in that attraction. You're getting hit from a lot of different ways, and I think that's one of the things that really makes it unique, I think, is that you're getting a lot of different gags and different things happening all in the same vicinity. And just, I don't know. That's the way I look at it. That's why I like it so much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, I kind of wish, you know, Mark Davis didn't, and, you know, a couple, Rolly Crump also had some ideas for a seance room. You know, I kind of wish they didn't have a seance room in there. But, you know, also, you know, because I also had a religious upbringing, and, you know, I was also kind of a timid kid. I think I might have mentioned that before. Like, I loved the story of it, but I didn't really want to go in there at first because I had the record. I knew what was in there, and I did not want to see that in real life. Like, I didn't want to see that in real life. So it took me, I was probably 8 or 9 before I went to the Haunted Mansion. But then I fell in love with it, of course, like everyone does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but like getting to the point, yeah, there's something for everyone, right? Magicians, like there's something amazing. And who doesn't like to be amazed? You know, people still don't really get the ballroom. Like people just don't know how that can happen. You know, people still kind of say holograms or, you know, and it still is amazing, even though it's turn of the century magic, right? It amazes people. So, yeah.
I think it also coincides with merchandise too, is that there's so much detail. There's multiple characters, there's multiple layers, there's multiple stories. There's so much going on that you can really just, your imagination can go wild in the fact that they give you so much, like there's a graveyard scene. There's so many different characters that you can take so much with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's so much appeal to it, where not to rag on like Big Thunder Mountain or anything, but like, okay, so you go on a train and you go through a mountain and here's the end. Like there's a goat. Okay. Like there's not much to it.
Well, there's Rainbow Ridge.
There's
okay. Yeah, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
there aren't any characters.
Sure. Things you can connect to. Like I think that's why there are just as many diehards for Haunted as there's just many diehards for Pirates. And I think it's the same thing. You know how we were all upset about the redhead because it's just, you know, it's a character, it's a staple piece in the storyline. And I think Haunted Mansion has a storyline that people can also like invest into versus any of the other rides in the park.
You know, you might be onto something there with the details. I mean, of course, you're onto something there with the details. I think most people, probably more people would say Pirates is their favorite attraction, I think, if you just took a poll of the world. But definitely the Haunted Mansion fans have created a bigger, like, stronger fandom. And it's interesting how I had never really thought about this, but you pointed out that there's detail in the Haunted Mansion. Like, it is, Pirates has detail too, extreme detail, but the Pirates detail is kind of unified towards caves and treasure and pirates. But the Haunted Mansion has, like, they hired this Cuban woodworker, just this sculpture woodworker guy to create all the doors. So, like, all the woodwork and doors has its own kind of little faces and things. Then there's the wallpaper, who I'm still of the belief that Rolly Crump primarily designed the wallpaper, and that has a very specific, like, character in it. And then there's Mark Davis, who made all these different kinds of gags and funny things. But there's so many different kinds of details in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that's something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really looked at that in that way before, but for sure that adds to the whole, idea of why is there so much merch and so many possibilities for merch. Like right now, one of the things they sell at Disneyland is a replica of a door knocker. Like, that one of those Imagineers, I'm not sure who, decided, like, let's put a mace on a hinge and have it knock on the doors.
Yeah.
And now it's like a toy.
Yeah.
Right? So many possibilities for merch. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and the one thing that I have learned as I go on there now multiple times is I always feel like I see something new.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did I see that before? Or I'm looking now. I'm much more observant of everything around, like making sure I'm taking everything in. Yeah. Because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Every room you go into, there's a lot going on. And listening to the sound, everything's going on, and then now you're getting used to the, the audio, and like now I'm like here, just talking along with her and everything, and like, man, it's just great, like layer after layer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely layer after layer.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were doing the research for your book initially, was there anything that came out that you learned that was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this? Or did you...
Wow. I think the thing that I most learned by writing the book was not so much facts and details, but more just a big picture of how it flowed with what WED was doing at the time, and how the Haunted Mansion fit in there, and how the different personalities kind of worked together while the whole thing kind of in fits and starts kind of became into being, right? So I think it was really eye-opening to me to kind of finally put together, like, what is the real story here? How did, like, we know Yale Gracie did this, he did this, and we know Rolly Crump sat there and made the Museum of the Weird, and we know that, Eleanor Audley recorded the voice for Madame Leo. Like, we know all these little facts, but I had the chance to really put together the story. And, it really came together because I was able to sit down with Rolly Crump for a good part of a day. Like, we just sat down, and I just said, so I'm putting this book together, just tell me the story of the Haunted Mansion. And, of course, it was from his perspective, which is actually quite slanted, believe it or not, because Rolly Crump, I mean, he has a really interesting place in the history of WED Enterprises that, that story is getting told now, but he was a young guy. He was basically a kid. He and Bob Gurr were young guys, and the rest of WED came from animation. I mean, they were Walt's contemporaries, right? And so they didn't really love Rolly Crump because Walt did love him. And so the more Walt loved the young guy, the more the older guys who had actually done stuff were like, well, that's all stupid. So like, that's why the Museum of the Weird, like, he came up with these things, and all the rest of the Haunted Mansion, the WED guys that were thinking of like a haunted house, which has bats and spiders and pumpkins, oh my, they were trying to figure out, well, how are we going to put like a wax man into this? Like, that's never going to happen. So his view of the history of the Haunted Mansion definitely comes from his perspective of kind of being an outsider to some degree. I mean, but he had Walt's ear, right? So he was never really an outsider. But he definitely kept being put in his place. And so I was able to take a lot of those stories and kind of merge them with the things that I already knew and figure out a little bit more of what was it like, at WED when these things were being actually, developed at WED Imagineering, and how did it all come together? And I think that was the biggest discovery I had while I was writing the book.
Okay. Good answer. Solid answer right there. Okay, Shannon, what is your favorite part of the Haunted Mansion?
Oh, boy.
Your absolute favorite.
Like the actual ride itself?
Any aspect of the Haunted Mansion. Oh, and it could be the merchandise, because I know you love buying all that stuff.
Yeah, hence my phone cover.
Your phone cover is...
It's Sally.
Sally, the tightrope girl?
Tightrope girl, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think, then that would probably be one of the pinpointed, like, over, that piece itself. I do like the mystery behind the Hatbox Ghost.
Oh.
And
I didn't know there was any mystery around that. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
Yeah, right. And I don't know, like even down to the basic of I love the wallpaper. Like it's just, and then wrap it up in a bow, and it's like it's awesome. But yeah, my favorite is probably Tightrope Girl is my favorite thing, probably out of the whole thing. She's just so pretty, and it could tie into the fact that like the one thing I would pay for to do that party is because she comes out during that celebration.
Well, Jeff went to that party.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about that party that Jeff can answer?
I mean, I'm sure it was really cool, and I've seen some pictures and stuff. But yeah, that's the one thing I would have like really wanted to see is take pictures with her. But you know.
Yeah. How much was it? Like $300 for that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was too much. But like, how was I not going to go to that? Right.
Of course.
Right.
Actually, I don't want to say it was too much. It was, I mean, I don't know. They decided to have a big party. You could see where the money was spent. Like they had big entertainment, huge things on the island, and lots of entertainment all over the place. So you could see where the money was spent.
It looked awesome.
It was like they wanted this big party, and that's what they did. I like that your favorite things about the Haunted Mansion are specific. Like you say, details, right? That's interesting to me. You choose like, the mystery of the Hatbox Ghost, or Sally Slater, or the faces on the wallpaper. Like that's kind of a classic fandom type response, to something. Like, well, I want the nerdy, really intimate details of something. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I try.
Udi, what is your favorite thing about the Haunted Mansion?
It's going to be two of them, actually.
Okay.
One is going to be coming into the ballroom scene. I don't know why I always loved the dueling paintings. I don't know why. As a kid, I'm like, that is the coolest thing to watch. And then,
also, you can notice that a spider web on the plexiglass in front of you, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then coming right out, the descent into the graveyard. I don't know why I've always liked that. You get turned around and you just kind of drop down, and it feels like you're kind of just descending into the graveyard. So those are the two things I've always really, really liked, and I always look forward to. Yeah.
Okay. Now, since I'm asking myself, my favorite thing is actually what it is, and it happens to be at night, is when you're when Fantasmic is dark, you happen to be on the Mark Twain. You can see the Haunted Mansion kind of beckoning you, this glow up on the hill. And I think that is just super fantastic. I mean, you just can't, I'm like, okay, I want to get off this boat in the next 15 minutes after I go around the rivers of America. But first thing I do when I get off the boat is I'm walking over to that mansion to see, just because it looks incredible to me. And that is my favorite thing, is that it just draws me in.
I agree. At night, it's amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Jeff, what is your favorite thing?
Wow.
Why is that a good answer? Bad answer?
No, those are all good answers, and they're all very different. That's really cool. And you don't make my job of trying to discover why do people love the Haunted Mansion any easier. But that's demonstrative of the problem, right? Everyone has there's so many things that can draw you in. I guess off the top, I don't always really have a strong favorite part of the Haunted Mansion. I would probably say the collecting. I mean, I'm a Disneyland collector, so I probably are most interested in collecting Haunted Mansion stuff. I love that there's a whole genre of this one Disneyland ride that you could just collect for pretty much forever, it seems. And with some good things, come up with a great collection. There was a time, not so long ago, maybe 10 years ago, where Haunted Mansion, there were completionists in the Haunted Mansion collecting world, where you could try to have everything. I think most people have given up that pursuit. I don't think you really rationally can do that anymore. But there was a time, right? And so it was kind of this neat idea where there was this set amount of things you could try to acquire. And I don't know. And it came out, right at the end of the mid-century, so it still has a lot of that quirkiness. Even the jazzy sound in the graveyard kind of has that period, surf jazz combo kind of sound. So
yeah.
I think the whole idea of where the Haunted Mansion sits in history and collecting stuff from that era, I think that's probably one of my favorite things about the idea of the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, that's a very solid answer. All right. Cool. All right. So that's Haunted Mansion talk. Deep Haunted Mansion talk with the LTP. Now, I'm going to shift gears for a second because Jeff is, as far as what I know, you are a Star Wars guy. Is that true?
I am a Star Wars guy, for sure.
Okay, so am I, but Udi is a Star Wars guy's guy. So, okay, so we've done Galaxy's Edge, and of course you have, of course. So what are you thinking about Galaxy's Edge right now?
I kind of wish they had. Wow. I wish they. Okay, I love it. First of all, I love it. I love Galaxy's Edge. I think they did a phenomenal job of creating the space. I can understand a lot of people saying like, well, but what do I do here? Like, because everyone's not me or you or, the big Star Wars person. And I kind of, in a lot of the concept art and things, you'd see robots and aliens, and you would imagine, there's going to be like cantina bands on the corner and like aliens walking and dancers walking down the road and, some kind of show, because there's multiple stages built in there. So there should be shows on those stages. And there is one little show where Kylo Ren comes out and announces, we're searching for spies. So there's that little thing, but I kind of feel like it still is a little empty. I think it's the perfect stage for Disneyland. And I don't think it's a failure at all. I mean, I think mostly people just panicked and just decided, like, we're not going to go to Disneyland this year. And then they just decided that, and that's what happened, right? So,
okay.
I think, I'm not really an expert in Disneyland crowd management type things, but I like it. I wish it had a little bit more going on, but I anticipate it will in the not too distant future. So
January.
Yeah, I'm pro Galaxy's Edge. Pro Galaxy's Edge.
Okay. Did you want to comment on that, Rudy?
Oh no, I agree, and you and I went to kind of a long discussion about that on how we kind of did a rundown of what we enjoyed and what we think was lacking. And I agree. I think once we get Rise going in January, I think we're going to see a big shift in that land, personally. I enjoyed it. I spent a couple days in there. Mark only went in there one day, but I'm more of a Star Wars guy than he is. So,
well, I was with my daughters too, and they love Star Wars, but they, as we mentioned before, one of our biggest concerns back years ago when this was announced was how is Star Wars Land, actually we were calling it then because there was no Galaxy's Edge name, how is Star Wars Land going to impact my experience at Disneyland? Is it going to disrupt the flow? Is it going to take everything out of, is it going to destroy everything we've known? Because, let's face it, we're losing the Big Thunder Ranch barbecue, and that was a big blow for me. But that being said, the answer to that question is no. My daughters and I did it, and we loved it. But the very next day, they're like, "Let's just stay in Disneyland and do our stuff." And we were totally fine. And Udi went off with his friend and did more Star Wars stuff. That's not to say I'm not going to go back, because I will definitely go back
in December when we go.
In December, yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm in the same camp with you, Jeff, and Udi is too. That I think there's a lot of potential for what can be. And did they prematurely open it? Maybe, but
maybe.
It's still.
They did.
Oh no, yeah.
In my opinion, they did.
Yeah, they did. But can you imagine just still waiting until January if they hadn't done that?
Yeah.
I will give you my final opinion in January about that. Okay,
but see, I'm still thinking that Rise, how awesome this is going to be, may not be enough for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Find out.
Okay. All right. So, did you get Disney Plus, Jeff?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Are you looking forward to The Mandalorian?
Yes, I am.
Oh, cool. Okay.
very, very much so. Yeah. I was at D23, for the big announcement, and I don't see, no downside to Disney Plus I can see. The Mandalorian just being like, I mean, there's so many angles to this thing, right? You can I would probably pay the amount they charged us just to subscribe to get the Mandalorian. Like if it was on Amazon, which it may very well be, as a single series download, I would probably pay the same amount of money. So it's, but then my daughters, now we don't have to keep buying DVDs, which I guess DVDs are going to be dead in 3 or 4 years anyway, but we don't have to keep buying, movies. It's just, there's so many reasons. I don't know why, even modest Disney fans wouldn't go for Disney Plus. It's just, right now it's like a financial, it's saving me tons of money to be Disney Plus. So.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I don't have Disney Plus. Udi just got it.
Waiting.
Oh,
waiting.
November.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
November 12th.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
waiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just did too. Just got it.
Oh, okay. So, and while we have you, what are your thoughts about Tomorrowland with all the construction going on? What do you think is going on over there?
Oh boy, I don't know. I just hear the rumors the same as probably you guys do. I mean, I presume they're widening the opening a little bit and maybe getting either minimizing or taking out the big golden stones. I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Tomorrowland, yeah, that's everyone's question mark, right? Like, why have we waited for this for so long? Like, I think, I think they really are grappling with, a really tough question that even Walt didn't really have a great answer for. Like, how do you have tomorrow as a concept? Like, it's a really difficult concept to wrap your head around, right? So I anticipate them landing like they have before on some type of retro, futuristic, alien concept that's not really anything to do with technology or tomorrow. You know what I mean? I would guess, because really, like, as a concept, it's just, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know how. Imagineers are paid to be blue sky designers, so perhaps they'll come up with some way to represent truly what Walt Disney had in mind. Like, well, I mean, I think he really thought it would be a little more educational and a little less thrilling. When they opened, Disneyland, it was like the bathrooms of tomorrow and the house, like everything in there was just like, let me show you how an atom can be burst apart into pieces with ping pong balls. It was more of a giant, like, science fair kind of a thing rather than, an actual attractions, thrills. And then he had a couple cool things, like you could walk through the Nautilus and see that in there, and you could buy some artwork. But whether or not, I don't know that they think they could really sell that to and that's really the only way. A constantly changing exhibit of technology is really the only way to truly have Tomorrowland, right? So it's just really interesting. I really think they don't know what to do with that. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Exciting times we're living in. What, Udi?
Well, I wanted, before we went too far, I want to kind of go back to a little bit of a question from one of our listeners, Fernando, again, because he only got half of his question in.
Oh, what else did he ask?
So the other half, I'll read it real quick, is people have had their ashes scattered on the rides on ride before. That is no secret. But if you got the okay to have your ashes scattered on Mansion, where on the attraction would it be? So funny. he wants all of us to answer that question, and he throws in the disclaimer: the LTV probably does not sanction the scattering of ashes on or near any Disneyland attractions, cast members, guests, or churro stands. That is accurate, Fernando.
Asterisk,
we do not.
Yes.
Yeah, we do not sanction that. But anyway, he wanted to ask that question, so. Have at it. Who wants to go?
Well, first off, we talked about this a while ago, but we made a list of attractions of which ones would not be appropriate, and we came up with Space Mountain would not be good because the people behind you would get a mouthful of ashes, right? Not
good.
Okay, so
unless you're what if you sat in the back?
You would still get ashes in your face
for the next car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the question is, where would you want your ashes?
In Mansion.
Oh, jeez. Such a question.
Riveting.
The LTP has the riveting questions here that people want to know. Who wants to tackle this one?
Well, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fernando.
so Disneyland, if you're listening, you can have this for free. So there are companies that will take your cremated body and compress the carbon until it forms like a synthetic diamond. So here's my thought. Why doesn't Disneyland create some kind of service where you can have your body sent to them? They will compress the carbon into a gemstone, and then you can have yourself. And I think this is, health-wise would pass the smell test. You can have your diamond installed onto like the coffin or somewhere in there where everyone will see the sparkling diamonds and know like someone else has become a ghost in the haunted mansion.
The 99, the 100. Wow.
Yeah, 999. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good answer.
So it's kind of ridiculous, but I mean that's the only way. Like
It's a pure
actually have your
moneymaker.
ashes.
Yeah.
So,
Money.
yeah, there you go. Like Disney, you can take that. But so honestly, people have done this many times, many times, and it's not so much of a health risk as it is just a gruesome, sad thing, right? So they have to just vacuum you up and discard your ashes. So it's kind of. Unfortunately, it's kind of gone out of vogue. I think it did happen when that but the story kind of hit the internet. I think it happened more often than maybe we kind of are aware.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of tapered.
I would hope.
These days. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But I'll say, let me be the first to answer that question.
All right, go for
yes,
it.
I would like my ashes compressed into a diamond, and I would like it put into the eyeball of the raven. I wanted one of his eyes to be my diamond.
Okay.
Very good.
That's a very solid answer, Jeff. I would say, how about can I have it sprinkled into the garden outside, like the garden, little fertilizer
At a specific tombstone, maybe.
Oh, maybe there's a pet cemetery, right?
Yeah.
Right there?
There's
Okay.
a skunk.
Yeah.
How about over there somewhere?
cat,
The
yeah.
cat by the cat.
By the cat.
There you go.
That's cool.
That works. I had it. I like the. I'm gonna get this wrong. Like the bride's section, her room. Probably somewhere in there. I know there's probably a name for it, but
Is that the attic? Or something?
Attic.
yeah, like where the guys like playing piano and stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
probably like
Okay.
because the whole concept is that she killed all all her husband.
yeah.
I'm like, I feel ya. I can relate. So I'm like, I feel the most connected to that section with that. Like, all right.
You're frightening me right now.
Like I can do that section because then I like how she, little Papa was like, hurry back kind of thing. Like
Yep.
that connection. I like it right there.
Okay.
I'd be cool.
Yeah.
I would be probably by the caretaker. I think that kind of,
With the
because
dog?
with the dog, because it kind of fits me. Because with my whole evolution into mansion and how I was like growing up was scared of it, but there I am now. I'll keep on going right on in now. So I think I'd be right in there. It'd
Okay.
be kind of cool. Yeah.
Very good answers. That's such a silly question to ask, but that's pretty funny.
It's interesting.
It is interesting. Okay. So while we have you here, Jeff, we always have standard questions we ask all of our guests. And I'm guessing I already know the answer to some of these, but I will ask them anyways of you.
Tradition.
It's our tradition.
Hit me.
Hit me.
do it.
Actually, one of the questions we had for tonight's show, always have an opening question, was since we drive down to Disneyland, do you have any traditions that you stop at on the way down? Well, actually, Jeff,
Wow.
you actually probably fly, right?
Combination. But I do. Well, I mean, I used to stop at Harris Ranch. My family did a couple times. We would stop at Harris Ranch once in a while.
Okay.
I guess no. These days it's like right when you get to Grapevine, how you get to those outlets and there's a Starbucks drive-through.
Yep.
Like the Starbucks drive-through has become like, let's get some gas. Let's get to Starbucks and then let's make this last stop of the trip. And that's So nowadays it's about like let's just get there because of the LA traffic. But but I, you know, my childhood, I remember Harris Ranch once in a while, having a good dinner, and so that was something.
Okay, yeah, that's a good answer. And now this just reminded me, because when you said Disneyana, so my oldest daughter goes to CSU Monterey Bay, and on just past 101, there's that, or near Monterey Bay, and I think you know where I'm going with this. There's that Disneyana
barn.
Yes. What is that place?
It's nothing. It's an empty shell. Although I did go to that antique. It's just an antique mall. It's an antique mall, and I did go there when they did have a dealer that sold some Disneyana, and it was kind of neat. I mean, I don't think there was ever. I think maybe when they first started that place, you know, however many years ago, I think they had maybe a couple dealers that sold some Disney stuff. So they figured, let's just paint that as one of the features on the roof.
Yeah.
I am not aware that there is currently any Disneyana. I mean, at least a few years ago, I stopped by there once just to kind of see, and there was nothing going on.
Okay.
So I don't know if there still is Disneyana dealers. I suspect, like any antique mall, people come and go that sell in there, and you know, sometimes now it's, I think, more popular as a flea market space. So
okay,
I don't have a good answer for you, but I have been in there and have bought like a Disney collectible before. So there, I guess it's, you know, has been a legitimate advertisement at some time.
Okay,
in history of that.
Awesome answer. I didn't. Yeah, whenever I drive by, it's always shuttered. I always want to stop in there, but there's like literally nothing going on there. So
yeah.
Okay, so we know we stopped at Harris Ranch. Okay, so the first question is, and again, we assume we were going to know the answer for you for some of these. What is your essential attraction list when visiting Disneyland? Like if this attraction or these attractions are not running, I will not be going, sort of thing.
Okay, is it a resort or just Disneyland Park?
We can go across the Esplanade if you want. Sure.
Okay. Well, I guess the Twilight Zone Tower Terror is gone, so maybe I don't need to go across the Esplanade. It is. I mean, Pirates, right? And I always do go on Pirates every trip. So Pirates, and I don't actually go on the trip every time for the Haunted Mansion. Obviously, I adore the Haunted Mansion, so don't read too much into that. But I am well acquainted with the Haunted Mansion. I'm familiar with the Haunted Mansion, so sometimes I let that one go.
Okay.
I try to go on Snow White's Scary Adventures because that was the original haunted house at Disneyland, and I just kind of like to do that kind of spooky dark ride stuff. It's Disneyland history and roots there, so I usually try to go on Snow White, and usually there's not a line for that. No one really cares about Snow White as much
you can
as Peter
usually
Pan.
walk right on.
Yeah. Let's see, Small World. I rarely miss Small World.
I rarely miss
the more you learn about.
Okay.
I mean, the more you learn about the history of Disney Imagineering, and the characters there, you can just kind of imagine Mary Blair and Rolly Crump and Alice Davis all working on this stuff and trying to get it done really fast for the New York World's Fair. And I don't know. It puts me into a mental state. So Small World. Let's see. What have I listed off? Small World, Pirates. It would have been the Twilight Zone Tower Terror at some point. Sleeping or Snow White. I love Space Mountain. I think it's the perfect roller coaster for me. So Space Mountain is a definite plus. Those are probably my let's not leave without doing these things. And then I'll follow my nose for the rest of the day. But I would think that's a pretty good list for me.
Okay. So you're not a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy? Mission Breakout.
I mean, it's fun, but things with video screens are not. I mean, let's not. This is.
Okay.
We get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Good answers. Now, this next question is, what is your favorite snack and/or restaurant? And this actually ties in with Tim's question. My cousin, he goes, ask him what his favorite place is to eat on property. that could be at the park, at the hotel, in downtown Disney. Because I guess he mentioned something about you posted something on Facebook about all these things that you eat. So he was curious as to where your favorite place was to go and snack and restaurant.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's pretty easy. I mean, I will rarely skip the Bengal barbecue. Now, I've been talking about this on Nostalgia for literally 10, 11 years now. And over the past three years, the Bengal barbecue has had some sort of awakening.
A renaissance.
You could call it a renaissance. So it's become there's always about yesterday, or what is today? 2 days ago when I was there, I went to the Bengal barbecue, didn't mobile order because the lamb kafta you have to buy in person for some reason. So I wanted to try the holiday season lamb. So I waited my 35 minutes, and it was great. It was super. Faith still is in the Bengal barbecue. But I have heard people say that lately they've had some tough meat now and then. I mean, it is so busy, so extraordinarily busy. I can imagine once in a while, a piece of overcooked meat might escape. But I'm going to say, without any hesitation, my favorite, at least counter food there, is Bengal barbecue.
Okay.
I've eaten at every restaurant at Disneyland. I've eaten at Club 33 before and Napa Rose. I would say Napa Rose is really, both for the experience of, and it does have a really California feel to it that I really enjoy. It's not even my favorite kind of cuisine, but I just feel like it's really well put together, and the atmosphere with being in the middle of the Grand Californian, I think that just really works for me. So I do like the Napa Rose. I probably would consider that the best prepared food at Disneyland.
Okay.
It's been, I go last year to the Napa Rose, so, things always are changing at Disneyland, but I believe that is probably one of my favorite menus, I would say. There's something to like almost everywhere at Disneyland. The Rancho del Zocalo, I eat there every trip at least once.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, yes, we do too. In fact, that's all Udi will eat.
Pretty much.
Every day he'll go
I'm
there.
pretty bad.
What do you get there, Jeff?
Usually I go to the grill, but I've pretty much tried everything there. It's pretty mainstream Mexican food, California style, which I find to be, I love that. Even here at home, I'll eat out a lot at Mexican restaurants. It's kind of my thing. So it's well done, right? Everything at Disneyland, almost without exception, is pretty well done. They have a pretty tough audience to impress, so they have no choice but to really make their food pretty exceptional. And it's not, no exception. It's really good. I usually go to the grill. They used to have, there was a time when you could get, and that's been about 11 or 12 years, but you could get a half chicken barbecued with shrimp and this corn dish that was my favorite thing ever. And I would buy that every time I went for 3 years. And then, of course, like everything at Disneyland, they changed the menu all up and it was gone forever. But I loved that. That's kind of what sucked me into Rancho. And so now I'll always eat there, usually get some beef of some sort. But that's
okay.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite, kind of counter-y cafeteria-ish restaurant. Sit down is probably Napa Rose, and then counter is probably Bengal barbecue. I don't know if you noticed a beef theme there, but
yeah,
if there's no beef somewhere, it's probably going to be a hard sell for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And how about snack? Or you could.
Well, that's kind of weird because Bengal barbecue also is kind of a snack, but
true.
Let's say it's not. Let's say it's not. Boy. I should preface this with I'm not really a snacker. I really love the new, what do they call that cream cheese thing at the Hideaway? What is that? Lumpia or
Lumpia? Yeah.
That new
The lumpia.
cheese cinnamon thing. That's really good. I could eat 10 of those in a row. So I guess I do have a favorite snack now. It's probably that. That's really good. Other than that, though, I'm not really a big sweets guy. I will often try some kind of dessert over New Orleans Square when I'm kind of hungry. I do like the when it's a really hot day, I like the fake mint juleps. I mean, they're just basically this weird limey Kool-Aid drink, right?
Yeah.
But I like those. Good, right? It's nothing in common with an actual mint julep, but I like those.
I like those too. In fact, Haunted Mansion related, Udi got the was it the midnight julep there last time? Is that what the one?
The midnight. Yep.
It has like the eyeball in it.
Oh.
Yeah, it was good.
Did you get that?
What? How did I not know about that? I didn't even know about that. That sounds amazing.
It was good. It was really, really good. Yeah.
Wasn't it purple?
It was kind of a purplish
gray or something.
Purplish red. Yeah.
Oh, it had like a floating eyeball in there.
Yep.
You know those ice cubes?
I almost want to drive to Disneyland again just to have that.
I wonder if it.
You've got a picture of it somewhere.
I do. I'm going to look for it now.
Okay.
I wonder if it's still there.
Because it was anniversary related.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
were there just right when that happened. Okay.
Now I got to look.
Yes. Okay. While he looks for midnight julep pictures, the very next question is Disneyland better at day or at night, and why?
At night, just because it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they put equal thought into what does this place look like at night as they do as to, how do we landscape this for the day. And also their spectaculars are designed for night, right? So you can only experience that stuff at night. So that's a whole different vibe when you're going. I mean, especially if you're going in the afternoon to stay till the night. Sometimes if I've been there since rope drop, by the night I'm a little bit like, a little too beat to really appreciate the environment. But if I'm just heading over there at 4:00 and I'm going to be there to close out the park, like that is my favorite thing.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just go close the park out and, see one of their nighttime spectaculars, whether it's Paint the Night or Fantasmic or over at GTA World of Color. Like they're all amazing, right? And then, night.
So what do you like to be at that magic hour when the lights come on?
Usually waiting for Fantasmic. I mean, these days you kind of have FastPass. It's a little different situation. I mean, there was a time, probably a whole decade, when I would at 6:00 get my Bengal barbecue, walk over to the Rivers of America, sit down in front of and this was before it was annoying people. I mean, there weren't all the strollers.
Yeah.
And everyone, before the time when the whole place shut down because of people, I would just sit there right in front of the grate and just put my, hold onto the fence and eat my Bengal barbecue, play Uno with my friends, and wait for 3 hours for Fantasmic to come. Because, if you've never watched Fantasmic with your, face in the bars, so there's nothing in front of you but mist, that's like a life-changing experience. I highly recommend that to everyone listening. Get there early, eat at the right restaurant, and then get there, right at the. If they tell you to be there an hour early, be there an hour and 15 minutes early so that you can find a place right in front of the fence, because it is just amazing. So that's usually where I would be at the twilight hour, but other than that, it's fun to ride the big high wind in your face attractions in the twilight, like the Matterhorn and Big Thunder. Who doesn't like? Yeah, I mean, you've all probably had that experience, seeing the fireworks go off while you're going over the hills, the Big Thunder.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Splash Mountain. I've been on Splash Mountain.
And Galaxy's Edge now. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So, but 13, you are our resident Fantasmic expert or lover, I suppose.
Yeah.
Have you done that? Have you sat by the fence?
One of the last time or the time before, Jess and I went. We got the seating pack, the dining package for Fantasmic, where we got our very expensive butt cushions. And
the Blue Bayou.
Yeah, the Blue Bayou,
Okay.
and they were pretty much dead center, right where the fencing is, and so that's where we were seated for our premiere dining experience. So yeah, it's a really cool dead middle shot, I think, of where we got placed, ironically. So, and yeah, we ended up sitting there for 45 minutes, to get that spot, and yeah, me and Jess will just play on our phones and play heads up and stuff while we wait for that. And it's really cool because it wasn't quite wet. When you get really close to World of Color, that's where you kind of can get in a wet zone. But in this place, it was just right, I feel like. The projections you can still make out. And yeah, I think it's a good spot too.
Okay. Solid answer right there. Okay. Now, Jeff, if you were to bring a friend into Disneyland, and this is someone who didn't quite get the whole Disneyland appeal, do you just want to kind of take them there? Where would you take them? To what? Yeah, where would you take them, and what attraction would you show them that best exemplified what Walt Disney was trying to achieve with this park?
Wow.
It's always my favorite question.
Yeah. Well, I would probably give them like my own homegrown, like from my own personal experience, tour, a little bit of a tour, you know. So, I mean, I don't know if there's one place that I feel would best exemplify. If I had to choose like one place, I would probably walk them up into the castle and through the castle walkthrough. It's been reimagined a lot of times, and especially this latest version. I guess this was about 11 years ago that they reopened it, you know, with this new special effects. But I still would take them through there and then just say, like, you know, because you can talk about, you know, how Walt Disney, how he planned Disneyland, and you can talk about the hub, and this is the center of the hub. You can talk about what was going on at the studio when he opened Disneyland, which was Sleeping Beauty was about to come out, and here's her castle, and you could talk about the storytelling that they did. You can talk about how he would put all these details into even the small little castle even has this walking experience you can go through. Like, there's a lot of Walt Disney kind of stories you can tell wrapped around that one thing. I might start there. I would probably walk through Tomorrowland and say everything that used to be that's no longer there. Like, there used to be, right here they had like a plumbing of the future exhibit, and right here is a foundation of the house of the future, and over here is there used to be this, like, a man used to come out of the sky and land on with a rocket backpack right here, and you know, you can kind of like put it's just an interesting juxtaposition between what's now and like that's more of the how Disneyland has changed over the years kind of a thing. I don't know. And then from there, boy, I don't know. I would have to follow my nose, but I think those kind of two ideas are what leap to mind. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Last question was, what attraction would you like to have experienced on its opening day? And you can't say Smuggler's Run.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, this might be obvious, but I really would have liked to experience a Haunted Mansion on opening day because there was so much rumor and myth and stories, and everyone just was waiting for this attraction, and for a decade, you know, or at least 6 years, you know, people saw this building and they wanted to go in and see what was going on, and you know, it was so scary that people died in there, and you know, it scared people to death. All these, you know, crazy stories. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, how much anticipation there was. I would have loved to be part of that whole vibe, you know, and we know that was accurate because the week, like 4 days after it opened, that first Saturday, 85,000 people. Like, can you imagine that many people at Disney with nothing, with no well, there was a Matterhorn, but no Big Thunder Mountain, no Space Mountain, no Indiana Jones, like none of the things that take people off the ground. Like 85,000 people, they don't even let that many people in anymore without the gates. Like a very busy summer day now is maybe 65, 70,000 people. Could you imagine? Just literally insanity. And that's what the Haunted Mansion did to people. Like, that's how much the culture wanted to know what was happening here. I would have loved to have been part of that opening week, and just maybe in the opening day, did see that actual Hatbox Ghost. Holy cow. That's what I wish I had done.
Yeah, very solid answer. Well, awesome. Well, that was kind of all we had tonight. I know we kind of went a little bit over, but that's fine. That's how we do it here. So I do want to thank you so much for your time, spending it with us tonight.
Sure.
So where can people find out more about you and your stuff?
Yeah, well, my website is doombuggies.com. I actually just a couple weeks ago. Launched the first in probably 6 or 7 years, the first update. It's totally rewritten. Everything is brand new at doombuggies.com. So if you haven't been there in a while, go check out my website. And, of course, it's on social media, Doombuggies on Instagram, Doombuggies Web on Twitter, because someone beat me to Doombuggies. And Doombuggies on Facebook. And you can hear me every week on Nostalgia. Every Monday, my podcast, Nostalgia, comes out with a new show. We talk about Disneyland, Disney history, kind of West Coast Disney lifestyle. So, nostalgia.com.
Awesome. Okay. So everyone, well, I'm sure we'll go and follow you and check out your stuff. Super. Yeah. So yeah, again, thank you so much for spending time with us. As a quick note, we are going to try to get together. I'm sure you guys have had Don Ballard on your show before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had him on our show a month and a half ago or something, and he was talking about trying to get together like a walking tour of the Disneyland Hotel. And so when we can get that going, I'll send you an invite since you're down there most of the time anyways. It'd be nice to connect.
Sweet. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be cool.
Okay, awesome. All right, Jeff. Well, thank you again so much for your time, and yeah, it's been definitely a great experience for us talking to you.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, sir. We will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Oh, wow. My gosh. So we just got done talking to Jeff Bam. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I know we did.
Yeah.
Guy's a wealth of information. Super nice. And yeah. What do you guys think?
I think, yeah, he's very knowledgeable.
He's our kind of people, man.
Yeah, exactly.
He is our kind of people. And his show, the Nostalgia podcast, they're definitely our kind of people, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's got a wealth of knowledge and very easy to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, why we have the show, is we can connect with people that are like-minded, that are cool and passionate about something.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how long we were talking. I did not. I'm like, wait, what time? I'm like, holy cow. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
I mean, yeah. So I'll let you guys in on something. Before we actually recorded the show, we were talking to him, and he said that. He said what?
No, go ahead. I was thinking your faux pas, but
faux pas.
We'll let that go. No,
we'll let that go.
Okay.
But I asked him how much time he had. He said, I don't know. I'm pretty open. I bet maybe not 2 hours. We almost hit 2 hours.
Yeah, just like 10 minutes short of 2 hours almost. Yeah.
Which is great because that shows you that it was a good time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, you can check it out at doombuggies.com, Nostalgia Podcast. And then follow him on Doombuggies on Instagram and Nostalgia. And that's Jeff Bam. And his book is The Unauthorized History of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion.
Not a mouthful, but it totally works.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to wrap up episode 95. That means 96 is around the corner. Maybe a guest, or maybe we'll talk about something. We always have stuff to talk about. Yeah, so Shannon, 13.
Yes. Where can they find me?
Where can they find you?
At work.
Okay.
Or at Starbucks.
At Starbucks. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. No, but in the digital world, I guess, you can find me at Shanna 13 Bunny on Instagram, or 13 ears. That's spelled out 13. From there, you can also find my Snapchat code and the link to a newly infancy website for 13 years as well. So yeah, give me a moment while we're under construction with that, but that is coming. And also Leaving Today podcast on Facebook. That's where you'll find me and Jess on there as well.
Okay. Now, Udi, where can people find you for the banter that's witty?
You can find me on all of my socials, which are Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, all HAXGOALIE. And the soon-to-be-coming Mando show. I believe we will be recording our first episode in a week and a half.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're coming. We're coming. Yeah, with my brother who's in the background right now.
Okay.
He's going to be on the show along
Awesome.
with Joey, Joe Pittman from Disney Universe, and my good friend Chad, the Chad Fett. Yep.
Okay. So more details to come for that.
Yep.
And we'll check that out. All right. And you can send us an email at info@leavingtodaypodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at leavingtodaypodcast.com. And that's what it is. If you ever want to reach out with us and connect, you can definitely do that. Again, if you want to support the show, go to leavingtodaypodcast.com and click on the Patreon link. We've got $1, $3, and $5 tiers. And for that, we will give you exclusive content. Right, Udi? We got that coming up?
Yeah,
What?
I've been on the cusp of like dropping and recording, and then every time I'm about to grab it and record, something comes up and I'm like, oh no, and I lose that vibe to go.
Well,
the vibe like it is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I'm going to do a soapbox, I need to be mentally there.
Okay.
It.
Gotcha. Understood.
And every time I'm there, I'm like, and then something happens. So
okay. But we are getting together.
Yeah.
We're getting together prize packs. We are, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
We keep on going back and forth with that because we have one idea and we're like, oh, that's not working, and we come with another idea and like, oh, that one's not working because we're just having different
We're
ideas.
just brainstorming, people.
Yeah.
Well, no,
We're
but
figuring it out.
we've gone to the edge of like doing
the
everything,
galaxy.
and then it doesn't work out right.
That's right. It doesn't.
We're not happy with it, basically. Yeah.
Okay, but we will give something. But in the meantime, if you want to support the show, you can do that through Patreon, and you can be on our show and come up with a topic. That's definitely something that will happen. Also, Fernando, and Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What was I going to say? Yes, holidays are upon us. So, again, go to our site, leavingtodaypodcast.com, click on the Amazon link, and do all your shopping through our site. And you
Pick up the book that we're just talking about.
there will be a link to the book on there as well. All right. So, again, thank you so much for listening and spending time with us. I love this Disney community that we're a part of. It's always growing, and everyone have met has been incredibly nice and cool. Mm-hmm. All right, and so until then, see you in the parks.
See you.
Bye.
Kitty.
It's like a breath of fresh air.
Boy, was my face red.